Strategies for retirement. The accumulation stage are your working years on this week's edition of WealthWise. Hello, I'm Chuck Vickery with Elevate Wealth Advisory. Let's look at what this means for you. Thanks for joining us today. This month we're talking about the 4 stages of life and how to fund your retirement and minimize your lifetime taxes. We've already covered legacy, distribution, and transition. Today we'll discuss accumulation, which starts with your very first paycheck and it ends with your very last one. Save as much as you can, as early as you can. That's what accumulation is about. This series is not designed to do a deep dive into investment consulting, as a colleague presented this a few weeks ago. I will not dwell on these, but 4 investment areas are important during the accumulation phase. Number 1, build a globally diversified equity portfolio. Diversification reduces risk. Capture market rates of return. Take advantage of what's right with the market. Be an investor, not a speculator. Invest based on academic research. We know there are places in the market that give us a higher rate of return, and evidence-based investing tells us where those are. Accumulate growth and unrealized gains. If you do the first of these things, the unrealized gains will follow, and you will outperform 80% of the money managers. If you've watched this entire series, you know unrealized gains are important, as they allow you to decide when to pay taxes, if ever, at preferential rates, and it creates a step up in basis so that your heirs receive these free. Accumulation is the prime time to position wealth for unrealized gains. Save as much as possible in different tax-aware strategies. We want to save smartly and utilize the different types of accounts. Tax deferred, these postpone taxes. Tax free, these eliminate taxes. Taxable accounts, preferential tax treatment. Each of these should be utilized during the accumulation phase. Maybe the most important thing during accumulation is asset location and how you own your assets and the various strategies. Decisions you make at 30, 40, or 50 will impact you at age 80 or 90. During accumulation, you hear defer, defer, defer. Don't get me wrong, deferral is great. But what is your distribution rate going to be? If your distribution rate when you retire is higher than your current deferral rate while you're working, maybe you shouldn't defer at all. We have a program, Money Guide Pro, that will project your distribution rate. And you need to know that rate to make smart decisions now that will impact you for years to come. With asset location, you match ordinary income producing assets with ordinary income tax accounts. Let me say that again because that's a mouthful. With asset location, you match ordinary income producing assets with ordinary income tax accounts. Ordinary income is work income, interest income, rent. It's things you normally pay tax on, your regular tax. Basically match up assets based on how the account is taxed and the asset is taxed. When money is removed from a retirement account, it's taxed at ordinary income rates. So in your retirement account, consider putting interest-bearing accounts like bonds, guaranteed accounts, CDs, rent from real estate. Put that in your retirement account because that way your retirement account actually is used to shelter your income from assets that create taxes. Because these types of assets offer lower growth rates, the result lowers your future amount of required minimum distributions. When you are working, pre-tax investing is great, but when you are forced to withdraw money in retirement and pay taxes, you look at your retirement account in a totally different light, especially if the only way you have saved is pre-tax, because retirement accounts are infested with taxes and every dollar comes attached with a tax bill. You have a partner, and his name is Uncle Sam. Position equities for capital gains tax rates and tax-free step-up. Equities is just a fancy word for stocks, and stocks is a fancy word for owning companies. These normally grow at higher rates than bonds and savings accounts because they're riskier. Put these in either a Roth or a regular brokerage account because they receive preferential tax treatment. Optimize asset placement and account structure for future after-tax distribution. Roth accounts come in three flavors: IRA, 401k, and 403b. After-tax dollars go into these accounts. The earnings are deferred, and the money comes out in retirement tax-free. Think about it. No tax on the interest, no tax on the dividends, no tax on the gains, no tax on the growth, no tax when you make withdrawals, and tax-free to your heirs. If we could, we would put all of our money into a Roth IRA. It's pretty difficult to do. I don't know anyone that's been able to do it. But you definitely want Roth to be part of your high-growth engine. Taxable accounts are regular brokerage accounts in either your name or joint name with your spouse. These accounts are subject to taxation. However, qualified dividends and long-term capital gains receive preferential tax treatment. Ordinary income is taxed as high as 37%. Dividends and capital gains have this special tax rate. Depending on your other income, the rate goes from 0 for those with less than $107,000 of adjusted gross, up to 20% for people that have more than $520,000 adjusted gross. The minimum discount is 40%. Wouldn't you like to have a 40% discount on your tax bill? Position equities for tax loss harvesting. With stocks and retirement accounts, you lose the ability to tax loss harvest. So the federal government isn't sharing any of the risk with you. If the government owns up to 37% of your retirement account, why do you want that account to be your highest growing engine? Don't you want your highest growth engine and an account where the taxes are lower and the government shares in the risk? That's a taxable account. If your retirement account is your high growth engine and you're successful, you just made it more difficult for you and your heirs. Income taxes and one day Medicare taxes are going to be much higher, and you end up with very little flexibility. We see this all the time. People have their retirement accounts just stuffed full of stocks and growth assets, and their personal accounts filled with CDs and savings accounts. The result, this has them paying the absolute highest possible tax that they could. If the only way you can save is with tax deferral, then so be it. But if you're using all three account strategies, tax deferred, tax-free, and taxable accounts, asset allocation gives you exactly the same overall growth rate with better after-tax results. Don't volunteer to trade low taxes for high taxes. How you fund your retirement lifestyle and pay the least amount in taxes is dependent on your asset location and decisions you make while in accumulation. Start building a plan for your family to lose the least amount of wealth over multiple generations. At the tail end of accumulation, it is critically important to add value as you prepare to transition into the next phase. Here we want to manage tax bracket creep, we want to accelerate deductions, and we want to defer income. Near the end of your working life, your income is probably at its highest. You're paying more in taxes than you ever have. In a few years, you'll be retired. This is when you can have a major impact on your future. Do an analysis of your future situation. Defer income by bumping up your contribution to your retirement plans. Practice living off what your retirement income will be. If you're charitably inclined, set up a donor advised fund to accelerate deductions. A donor advised fund is a charitable account you set up to which you donate assets and receive a charitable deduction. These are larger gifts that allow you to itemize and save substantially on taxes late in your career. You are essentially pre-funding future gifts now to take advantage of itemizing during a high tax time in your life. The money is invested per your wishes, and you make grants whenever you want to your favorite charities. Once you're retired, your income may be lower. By utilizing a donor-advised fund, you can fund your charitable bequests from the time you retire until age 70 and a half. Remember, at age 70 and a half, we switch to qualified charitable distributions. Your spendable income in retirement is increased because your charitable gifts are no longer coming from your income, but from your donor-advised fund. And the cherry on top, the donor-advised fund can be funded by transferring highly appreciated assets with unrealized gains. You not only avoid having to pay tax on the unrealized gains, but you get a tax deduction for them. This concludes this series. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about anything we've discussed, please feel free to reach out to us. We created a 5-page workbook, Strategies for Retirement Transitions, that I used as the basis for our discussion in this series. If you'd like a copy, please email marketing@elevate-wealth.com, and we will gladly email you a copy.